Former Vice President Joe Biden just released that announcement.
Joe Biden is now a 2020 presidential candidate.
Biden will enter this race as the frontrunner.
I know Joe. We know Joe. But most importantly, Joe knows us.
Candidates coalescing around Joe Biden.
His campaign made history.
Joe Biden has selected Kamala Harris as his running mate.
This is your campaign.
Now's the time to fight for what we believe.
The 2020 presidential election is less than 2 months away.
The presidential race is tied.
This election is in no way predetermined, and it's going to be close.
Yeah.
We have got to vote like our lives depend on it.
Welcome to this Biden-Harris campaign event, virtual GOTV rally and relational organizing workshop with Senator Bernie Sanders. Please welcome community leader Raquel Cruz Juarez.
Hello, Nevada. 2 days out from the most important election of our lifetime. I'm so honored to be here with you all tonight. My name is Raquel Cruz Juarez, and for the last 4 years, I've been fighting to make sure that immigrants and access to reproductive health care, specifically safe and legal abortion, is still important and at the top of everybody's platform and everyone's mind. Let me tell you a little bit about me before we get into our amazing guest tonight. 4 years ago, I caucused for the very first time. I actually cast my vote for the very first time as a citizen of the United States. I'm the daughter of a Marine vet and the daughter of a Central American immigrant. I'm actually an immigrant myself. And the candidate in 2016 who moved me was Senator Bernie Sanders. 4 years later, the candidate that moved me once again was Senator Bernie Sanders. And while I was so sad that he didn't make it to the end, one thing that Bernie taught us is not me, us. What does that mean? It's that it doesn't matter who we caucused for. At the end of the day, Joe and Kamala Harris remind us that this is the battle for the soul of the nation. And tonight, I'm excited to hype us up, to get us out there, and to make sure that 1 or 2 or maybe 3 of our friends make it out to vote. I actually came back from lit dropping today, and I was at a rally with our governor, Steve Sisolak, and he reminded the crowd to please, one last time, maybe take one person to the poll on Tuesday. Maybe ask your neighbor if they were able to mail their ballots in. Maybe find somebody's polling location for them. But let's just make sure that we make this finish line and we finish and we can look back and say, hey, we did everything that we could ever do. That's why tonight, I'm so honored to introduce to you Senator Bernie Sanders. Senator Bernie Sanders, welcome to Nevada virtually.
Raquel, thank you so much. And I wish it didn't have to be virtual. I wish I could be with you tonight. And thank you so much for your support for my candidacies. I think Raquel said everything that has to be said. This is the most important election in our lifetimes. Nevada is a battleground state, meaning that Biden can win, Trump can win, and the election may be decided by a handful of votes. So every vote counts. You got 2 days left to go. And let us make sure that we do everything that we can to bring out our friends, our co-workers, our fellow students, our neighbors, and make sure that they vote. Now, I know sometimes it's a bit uncomfortable to kind of go outside of your skin and kind of badger somebody. Did you vote? Why didn't you vote? Get them to vote. But it is better to be uncomfortable today than uncomfortable on Wednesday morning if Nevada goes for Trump by a few votes and that decides the presidential election. You will be very uncomfortable then. So I don't want you to be uncomfortable then. I want you to do everything you can to make sure that Biden wins Nevada. Because as Nevada goes, so might go the whole United States of America. Many, many states, it's going to be a close election. Now, if some of you who are watching this have any doubts as to why you should vote, let me just briefly try to suggest to you why it is imperative that you come out. I want you to think about the major issues facing Nevada, facing our country. If you are a worker, and I have talked to workers in Nevada who earn totally inadequate wages. All right, we've got to raise that minimum wage to a living wage so that nobody in America lives in poverty. Biden wants to raise that minimum wage to $15 an hour. Trump has done nothing, zero, in the last 4 years. Biden believes in equal pay for equal work. If you're a woman and you're making 80 cents on the dollar, that's wrong. And if you are a minority woman, you're making less than that compared to men doing the same work as you are. Biden wants equal pay for equal work. Biden wants to make it easier for workers to join unions so they can gain the benefits of collective bargaining. Biden understands that we can create millions of good-paying jobs rebuilding our crumbling infrastructure. That's our water systems, our wastewater plants, that's our roads and our bridges. That is affordable housing. And I know that in many parts of Nevada, you have a serious problem with affordable housing. We need to build more low-income and affordable housing. That's what Biden understands. And we put people to work when we do that. Biden understands that it's very important for people who have the ability and the desire to get a higher education. That's why he believes that public colleges and universities should be tuition-free for working-class families. Got that? So if your family makes $70,000 a year or $50,000 a year, you can go to college, public college or university, tuition-free. And Biden understands that student debt is an enormous burden on young people's lives. I just talked to a guy a minute ago, $130,000 in debt for getting 2 master's degrees. And Biden will reduce student debt. And Biden understands that health care is a human right, not a privilege. Now, he and I have different approaches toward universal health care. I believe in a Medicare for All single-payer program. He has another approach. But under his approach, we would expand health care to tens of millions of Americans and lower the outrageously high cost of prescription drugs. And on an issue of enormous importance to Nevada and to the rest of the country and the world, that issue is climate change. The differences between Biden and Trump are a mile wide. Trump does not believe in the reality of man-made climate change, just doesn't believe it. Thinks it's a hoax, doesn't think human activity has contributed to climate change. That is despite the fact that almost every scientist who has studied the issue says exactly that. And what Biden is prepared to do is to spend $2 trillion, $2 trillion, to transform our energy system away from fossil fuel into energy efficiency and sustainable energy. And I've been in Nevada enough to know that you guys get quite a bit of sunlight. And you could be one of the leaders in this country in moving us toward solar power. And that's what Biden wants to do. Joe Biden understands that we have a racist and broken criminal justice system, that it's absurd that we have more people in jail than any other country on earth, which is why he wants to invest in jobs and education, not more jails. And he wants to, by the way, do away with private prisons and private detention centers. Joe Biden also understands that our immigration system is deeply, deeply broken, and he's going to end the demonization of the immigrant community, the undocumented community, as we move toward comprehensive immigration reform and a path toward citizenship. So those are just some of the reasons why it is very, very important that Joe Biden be elected president of the United States. But the other half is not just what Biden and Kamala Harris will do and what a Democratic Senate will do, if we get that. It is why we have to stop Donald Trump, who in my view is the most dangerous president in the modern history of this country. Now, why is that? And I'll tell you why. Number one, we cannot continue to have a president who lies all of the time, every single day. He's lying today. Going around the country giving rallies, he lies in every one of them. And one of the areas that he is lying in is this terrible COVID-19 pandemic. And I know the pandemic has impacted Nevada very significantly. not only in terms of the cases that you have, but what it has done to the hospitality industry and so many jobs in Las Vegas, Reno, and elsewhere. And what Biden understands is that if we are going to effectively combat the COVID-19 pandemic, we need to rely on science and scientists. And Trump, on the other hand, is running around the country tonight, and he's saying, we are turning the corner on COVID-19, turning the corner. At exactly the same time as we're seeing more cases being diagnosed than at any time since the pandemic began. In other words, he's lying. He has lied from day one, downplayed the disease, attacked doctors like Dr. Fauci, who's working as hard as he can to try to educate the American people as to how we can save lives and combat the pandemic. But it's not just that Trump lies all the time. It's that his anti-science mentality impacts our ability to lead the world with regard to climate change. You need science to understand what climate change is doing and how to combat it. And that is not Trump's point of view. And we need to defeat Trump because this is a president who is trying to undermine American democracy. This is a president who is, along with other Republicans, is in an unprecedented way trying to suppress the vote, making it harder for you to participate. The Republican Party is involved in now voter intimidation, frightening people if they vote. They're trying not to count the ballots of mail-in voters in certain parts of the country. You got a president who does not believe in our Constitution or the rule of law. This is a president, when asked whether he will leave office if he loses the election, which I certainly hope and expect will take place on Tuesday, he says, well, it depends. That's not what a president says if you believe in democracy. So this election is of enormous consequence for every man, woman, and child in America. It is of enormous consequence for the future of our planet and whether or not we're going to combat climate change effectively. Our job right now in the next 2 days is to do every single thing that we can to make sure that everybody we know votes. Yes, we've got to get out and vote, but we have to bring our friends and our coworkers and fellow students and neighbors out to vote with us. And I know that that could be kind of uncomfortable. No one really likes to nag or pester your friend and tell him or her that, you know, they've got to vote. But you know what? You're going to be more uncomfortable if on Wednesday morning it turns out that Trump wins Nevada by a few votes. That will make you very uncomfortable, very, very unhappy. So in this moment in American history, which is an unprecedented moment, really is, they're going to be writing about this in history books 50 years from now. This moment, you can be part of history right now. And that is do everything you can to grow the voter turnout, do everything you can to see that Donald Trump is defeated, that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris become our next president and vice president. So thank you all very much for what you're doing. 2 days left. Let's go forward. Let's do it. Let's win this election. Take care.
Thank you so much, Senator Bernie Sanders, for being here virtually in Nevada this evening. I know my fellow Nevadans really appreciate you being here. So thank you so, so much for taking the time in these final 2 days, these 2 crucial days. We really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to everyone for being on this call this evening. Today,